Adelir, 6th of April 2024, Bangladesh, when China comes rapping at India's rear entrance. Bangladesh is being used as a pawn by China in her all-out battle on the Indian subcontinent. Bangladesh's Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, who has led the Awami League since 1996 except for the 2001 to 2008 transition, was elected to a fourth term in the most recent elections. The Central Powers flocked to her side without acknowledging or hesitantly bringing up the opposition's allegations of irregularities, which abstained from the polls. Among the giants engaged in a bitter competition to win over Bangladesh through direct aid, infrastructure projects, and security alliances, India and China stood out in particular. As a result, Bangladesh is crucial to China's and India's projection in the area and Southeast Asia, where Myanmar does represent a risk of instability. Bangladesh's foreign policy is founded on its long history of non-alignment, which has helped it retain good ties with other countries and entities, including the US, Japan, and Russia. The US views Bangladesh as a vital partner in its Indo-Pacific strategy. A prime minister in need of credibility is Hasina. Bangladesh's 76-year-old Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, was victorious in the January elections, marking her fourth consecutive term in office. However, it was not an easy journey, with numerous voices, both domestically and internationally, condemning electoral fraud and portraying Hasina as an autocrat. After these events, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh is advocating for a foreign policy that upholds her legitimacy, which is still fiercely disputed at home. Clashes between supporters of the government's Awami League (AL) and the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP) have gotten more intense since late 2023, and the police have hardly been able to quiet them. Furthermore, the number of individuals arrested who have ties to the BNP has increased, sometimes for crimes that date back years. In response, the BNP called for a boycott of the elections. From the beginning of the election campaign in December, the AL, for its part, supported BNP defections by providing positions and candidacies to its principal opponents. The most blatant example of this was the case of Shahjahan Omar, the BNP vice president who was previously imprisoned and who was shortly after an AL candidate for the Jalakoti constituency. Although there were no significant events on January 7, the election day saw only 42% of voters cast ballots. Hasina's fourth term in office was validated after the Election Commission proclaimed the AL the winner with an absolute majority, keeping 75% of the seats up for grabs. India, China, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union were among the first to congratulate her, albeit somewhat later. Furthermore, the fact that the US and UK elections were not free and fair was mentioned. Hasina's quick international tour, which included attending the Munich Security Conference on February 16 to 18, helped her reassert a more solid position as Prime Minister. Perhaps as a concession to Western positions far removed from Bangladesh's traditional non-alignment, she defended Ukraine's position in the ongoing war with Russia and gave a speech centered on the fight against climate change since Bangladesh is one of the most affected nations. Even though Hasina and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had a private meeting, Russia congratulated the Prime Minister on her election win. China, which Hasina last visited in 2019, and India have expressed interest in hosting an official visit. Following the announcement of Abejal Khattar, Bangladesh's transport minister, thanking India for supporting the election process during the boycott by the opposition BNP, the Chinese invitation was extended. The latest meeting between Indian Prime Minister Modi and Hasina took place in September 2023 in New Delhi as part of the G20 summit, with the primary subjects of discussion being regional security and bilateral collaboration. Due to historical ties, Bangladesh, a large country only exceeded in size by its neighbor, was a part of India until 1947, when Hindu and Muslim cultures collided. Despite this, 84% of the country's population is Muslim. Its location as a bridge connecting India and Southeast Asia is vital, but it also benefits from centuries-old influences from neighboring Myanmar and farther off China. China and India are currently courting Bangladesh, the two Asian superpowers, with their promises for infrastructure development and connectivity as it looks to carve out a place in the politically delicate Indo-Pacific region from the Bay of Bengal. Bangladesh's approach to the Indo-Pacific. The nation also unveiled its own Indo-Pacific strategy in April 2023, dubbed Outlook, which outlined its outlook for the Indo-Pacific in light of another document, Vision 2041, which is a national strategic plan aimed at industrializing the nation and emphasizing the importance of Bangladesh's geographic location as a coastal state on the Bay of Bengal for attaining this objective. Therefore, The outlook promotes stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific as a critical component of realizing its Vision 2041 within the context of the region's significance for global trade, encouraging an open and free Indo-Pacific, enhancing climate action, and using technology as a significant project cornerstone. The fundamental ideas of traditional Bangladeshi politics serve as the foundation for this sincere approach. Friendship towards all, malice towards none sums up the non-alignment foreign policy tenets of Hasina's father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is widely regarded as the father of the nation. The outlook then lists respect for international law centered on the principles outlined in the United Nations Charter and, about maritime routes, the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, as well as non-interference in internal affairs and the peaceful resolution of disputes between states. Bangladesh's attainment of economic success via the connectedness of people, commodities, and services is likewise given top priority in the outlook. Unlike other documents detailing the strategies of Indo-Pacific nations like Japan, South Korea, or Australia, the outlook emphasizes the need for security within a non-alignment policy similar to that expressed by other nations in the region, like the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, or by India in its numerous initiatives, instead of focusing on specific third countries. As such, Bangladesh refuses to engage in the internal politics of other states and rejects any attempt to unduly influence its own, since non-interference in domestic matters is a core principle. The Bangladeshi outlook defines security as the state of the world and human well-being combined. Although non-proliferation and peacekeeping are the cornerstones of Bangladesh's Indo-Pacific security strategy, the country's security situation is more dire. Jihadism was a significant issue not too long ago, and the conflict in neighboring Myanmar is currently taking concerning new dimensions. Border guards from Burma cross the border illegally to escape fighting against forces that oppose the military government. In addition, there is intense fighting in southeastern Bangladesh between the Tatmadaw, the Myanmar Armed Forces, and the insurgent Arakan Army, whose members also cross the border from Burma's neighboring provinces during the fighting. This poses a severe threat to Bangladesh's security and has resulted in numerous deaths and significant property damage. Over 3,000 Bangladeshis are thought to have fled to the country's interior over the border. Regarding Myanmar, there was already a complicated scenario because of the over 1.3 million displaced individuals living in large camps in Bangladesh as a result of the ethnic Rohingyas' wholesale expulsion into Bangladeshi territory. India's forecast. India has a noticeable presence in Bangladesh, as the two countries share a border spanning over 4,000 kilometers, making it the fifth longest in the world. Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, formerly the hub of the East Bengal area, has an urban layout and character that is uniquely Indian despite the country's people being primarily Muslim and secular. India's victory in the subsequent brutal War of Liberation against Pakistan was mainly in support of the 1971 independence revolt in what was then East Pakistan. This would lead to the creation of modern-day Bangladesh, whose name means country in Bengal and also alludes to the nation's previous membership in India, from whence it derived its current name. Even though there have been border disputes since the 1970s, India accepted an international arbitration ruling in 2014 that established its maritime and territorial boundaries with Bangladesh while Narendra Modi was the Prime Minister. By drawing comparisons to China's South Sea policy and disputes with China's immediate neighbors, India thereby demonstrated its interest in fostering strong ties with its eastern neighbor while upholding international principles. The Modi government's 2014 Act East policy was predicated on India's projection into Southeast Asia through Bangladesh, which is the only feasible route for India due to geography. Bangladesh is frequently referred to as blockaded India, which is an essential aspect of the relationship between Bangladesh and India. One of Modi's first international visits was to Bangladesh in 2015. Hasina followed up on the visit the following year. Beyond serving as a conduit for information, India has another reason for being interested in Bangladesh. Its long-term perspective sets this shared interest apart from the disinterest and neglect of the past. Given China's rise in the region and broader geopolitical unrest, Bangladesh is no longer considered a peripheral issue for India. According to Subramaniam Jaishankar, the country's current foreign minister, this reflects India's new policy more comprehensively as it ascends to global prominence and matures from subsistence economic thinking to a broader, more ambitious, and long-term strategic policy. Bangladesh is the most intriguing nation for India to establish robust commerce and political ties with, according to the country's neighborhood-first strategy that it is now implementing. Despite ongoing disputes over the use of rivers that originate in India and flow through its territory before entering Bangladesh, Bangladesh is assertive when it comes to Indian initiatives such as the Bay of Bengal Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, BIMSTEC, and the Bangladesh-Bhutan-India-Nepal Initiative, BBIN. Both nations are currently negotiating an economic partnership deal, which has already been signed. This deal allows Bangladesh to use the rupee to increase commerce with India beyond its reserves of foreign exchange, which fell to its lowest point since 2016. This bilateral alliance is based on connectivity, the driving reason behind other projects like the Maitri Express Kolkata-Dhaka railway line connecting Kolkata to the Bangladeshi ports of Mongla and Chittagong. Meanwhile, India permits Bangladesh to freely travel across its borders to conduct business with Nepal and Bhutan. India and Bangladesh have also long collaborated in the defense sector, especially on programs aimed at modernizing Bangladeshi equipment. A yearly defense discussion between India and Bangladesh has taken place since 2018. During this dialogue, agreements are confirmed, current obligations are extended, and increasingly extensive and complex collaborative military drills are scheduled. Indeed, several ground, artillery, engineering, and other units from the armed forces of both nations took part in the 11th Sampriti joint exercises in October 2023. But recently, maybe due to its delay in finishing its own, India has faced competition for Bangladesh's initiatives and projects. Building connecting infrastructure, like the Padma River Bridge, which has been essential to Bangladesh's economic development, is something that China is likewise interested in doing. By October 2023, over 600 Chinese corporations had invested in China, and the nation was constructing numerous bridges and energy projects. Given the formidable China-Pakistan alliance, which threatens India's northwestern frontiers and its ability to exit the Arabian Sea, the country faces the risk that a potential China-Bangladesh alliance may eventually envelop it from the southeast. China's initiatives. China has been Bangladesh's largest trading partner since 2006, surpassing India. The country also positions itself as a low-cost production platform for the Chinese domestic market while showcasing competitively priced Chinese products with projections across South Asia. Bangladesh is an attractive node for the Belt and Road Initiative project as an outlet for China to South Asia and its maritime routes from the Bay of Bengal. As was the case during the urgent supply of vaccines to the nation during the second wave of the COVID pandemic, when the incidence of the disease was on the rise in Bangladesh due to those purchased from India not arriving on time, China has recently continued to demonstrate its interest in fostering friendship with Bangladesh, sometimes at India's expense. Another instance is the quick congratulations the Xi Jinping government sent Hasina upon her election victory in January, along with an invitation for the Prime Minister to visit Beijing and meet with the Chinese president. Since 2018, Bangladesh has also become a net consumer of weapons from China in the defense sector, surpassing even its longtime suppliers, the United States and India. In reality, Bangladesh is presently China's second-largest export market. From 2013 to 2017, Bangladesh imported 1.6% of all arms sold globally. From 2018 to 2022, China accounted for 74% of Bangladesh's imports. Beyond this supply, the bilateral security connection extends. 2002, a cooperation agreement was struck. Specific infrastructure projects using Chinese funding impacted the military domain. In 2023, Pkua, a coastal city in the province of Cox's Bazar, welcomed the Bangladesh Navy with a submarine facility entirely constructed in China. It was christened BNS Sheikh Hasina, a symbolic reference to the current state of the relationship between China and Bangladesh. It is the largest undersea port in South Asia. The US, its allies, and India's large neighbor are concerned about this relationship with China. During an April 2021 visit, Wei Feng, the former Chinese Minister of Defense, made an apparent reference to Quad when he urged for increased military cooperation among Asian nations, including Bangladesh, against the forces forming alliances in the region. China also stood behind Bangladesh when the US parted from the December Democracy Summit as a message to Hasina regarding the nation's respect for human rights. President Xi Jinping then openly reaffirmed China's backing for her government and urged it to withstand any pressure from the US. Does this imply that Bangladesh is a potent regional ally of China? Hasina has recently espoused cooperation over strong alliances, citing her caution about potential debt with Beijing and her belief that Bangladesh is unlikely to fall into the same debt traps as other nations, particularly Pakistan and Sri Lanka, which are nearby. Hasina has shown exceptional diplomatic ability by acknowledging and welcoming Chinese investments while upholding Bangladesh's sovereignty. Other parties looking to collaborate. Other parties, besides China and India, are involved in this worldwide competition to work with Bangladesh. The West is observing the position of Bangladesh in the Indo-Pacific. As a result, Bangladesh will get $4.7 billion in financial assistance from the International Monetary Fund in 2023 to help reduce the risks brought on by climate change. Bangladesh is a significant ally of the United States in several bilateral and multilateral forums, including the ASEAN Regional Forum, the U.S.-Bangladesh Security Dialogue, and the U.S.-Bangladesh Partnership Dialogue. Bangladesh also contributes a significant amount of military aid, including training and equipment, to the Bangladeshi armed forces annually. Hasina's administration appears to have aligned itself more with U.S. foreign policy in recent years, possibly due to Washington's pronouncements expressing worry about China's influence in human rights conditions. Thus, a year after initially abstaining from the UN vote in March 2022 condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Bangladesh changed its mind. In April 2023, it jointly signed a statement with Japan, another Indo-Pacific ally, denouncing Russia's breach of international law. This does not suggest a lack of ties with Russia. However, Hasina recognizes that the Soviet Union supported her father, Sheikh Mujibur, credited with founding the Bangladeshi nation in the 1971 Battle of Independence. The Russian-Bangladeshi relationship has been sustained, if not strengthened, under Hasina's leadership, which is justified by Mujibur's maxim that Bangladesh's non-alignment foreign policy should prevail, friendship with all, malice with none. Another nation that has shown interest in Bangladesh is Japan, which has made significant investments in the creation of industrial zones and connection infrastructure. The two nations also formed a security agreement involving technology transfer during Hasina's April 2023 visit to Tokyo. To improve defense collaboration between the two nations, Australia opened a defense office at its embassy in Dhaka not long after. The building of the significant deepwater port of Mount Harberi, which was initially awarded to China but later changed and given to Japan after the US and India voiced their displeasure, represents Japan's economic and security significance to Bangladesh.